Taking the time to understand what it might be like to walk in your kids' shoes, seeing things from their perspective, that can make a really big difference in your family. It can greatly impact how well your family's able to connect and how you approach parenting decisions. And it can influence not only the kids' well-being and emotional safety, but understanding them is also going to help you as the adults in your family to manage your own emotions and feel much more grounded, even when things feel like they're spinning out of control. This is all about gaining the insider knowledge that you really need to help your kids and for you to move your family forward in a really healthy way. Welcome to the Blended Family Coaching Show, where you'll discover how to move your step family from just surviving to truly thriving.
Grab your headphones and listen in as we share practical, real-life strategies for building healthy bonds,
Understanding the kids' perspective,
romance and partnership,
parenting with great teamwork,
and yes, even co-parenting with a difficult ex.
We're Mike and Kim Anderson, and we believe with the right tools, every step couple can overcome the common challenges of step family life.
Join us for authentic and sometimes comical conversations to discover how you can lead your family with confidence and create the future you really want.
Hey, everybody. Welcome once again to the Blended Family Coaching Show. We're so glad that you're here. We would love it if you would leave us a rating or a review over on Apple Podcasts. We want to hear your feedback. And we also want other blended family couples just like you to find us because we know this resource needs to reach more and more people. So would you just help us with that by leaving us a rating or a review? We really appreciate it. Hey, let's just dive into today. You know what? We've discovered that pretty much every step parent we know wants to connect with their stepkids. They want to build some strong bonds. They want to experience a loving relationship, right? I remember wanting that early on, or at least we start out wanting that, right? But for most of us, that tends to turn out to be more challenging than we thought it was going to be. And so it's easy for us to get stuck in those moments of struggle when the kids are acting out or they're pushing back. And we can get hyper-focused on the kids' behavior, and sometimes that can lead us to an attempt to control the situation rather than just taking a pause for a minute and maybe considering the bigger picture.
With every blended family dynamic, there is a bigger picture. There's a bigger story, and part of that story is the struggle our kids are working through as they're adapting to their changing families. There's a lot that they're trying to navigate. Now, the struggle we see outwardly is almost never just about the surface behaviors. And these surface behaviors are frustrating, by the way, right? But there's more going on here, right? There's a bigger picture that we really need to be aware of if we want to understand our kids' mindset as they navigate their new family dynamic. It's kind of like that tip of the iceberg thing, right? We're just seeing a glimpse of what's going on below the surface. There's a lot more to the story.
That's really true. And, that's why for the past several episodes, we've been trying to focus on understanding our kids' perspectives. And so today we're going to keep learning through a resource that we've recently discovered that we really believe is going to be valuable for you. It's a book by Lauren Reitzema called In Their Shoes, Helping Parents Better Understand and Connect with Children of Divorce. And, taking the time to understand what it might be like to walk in your kids' shoes, seeing things from their perspective, that can make a really big difference in your family. It can greatly impact how well your family's able to connect and how you approach parenting decisions. And it can influence not only the kids' well-being and emotional safety, but understanding them is also going to help you as the adults in your family to manage your own emotions and feel much more grounded, even when things feel like they're spinning out of control. This is all about gaining the insider knowledge that you really need to help your kids and for you to move your family forward in a really healthy way.
This is important stuff, but we also know this is not an easy topic. This is tough because no one wants to talk about their kids' grief and all the emotional struggles that come when a family ends, splits, and begins again. We all want our kids to be well-adjusted and emotionally secure, and it's so hard sometimes to face these things that we're talking about, right? Sometimes the tendency is to just avoid this topic altogether.
Yeah.
And kind of hope for the best, that the kids will figure it all out and somehow be okay. But that doesn't always work because avoidance doesn't solve problems.
And we've learned that over the years, haven't we?
We have learned that the hard way. And the reality of blended families is that there will be some problems. The kids are going to struggle. And because they are kids, they just don't have the maturity to manage their emotional struggles or even the capacity to verbalize and express what's really going on. So it can be hard. And what doesn't get talked out gets acted out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we see our kids expressing emotions, right? They act it out. They push us away. They get angry. They shut down. They take their frustrations out on the step parent. And they desperately try to hold on to any sense of control or normalcy over their own lives.
We all want that, right?
Yeah.
Control and normalcy.
Yeah.
That's a strong lesson that we're learning right now in the middle of this COVID pandemic, right? We know the emotions that come with losing control and normalcy.
Yeah.
And our kids are experiencing that as well as
Every
their family
day.
is changing in a way that they can't do anything about.
Yeah, it's so true. Good point, honey. So if we want to make a difference, if we want to help our kids, we need to see beyond the acting out and be willing to enter into their emotional struggle. And if you've been able to do that and you've stayed with us through these last 3 episodes, I just want to applaud you. Good
Well
job.
done.
We're proud of you because this is not easy. But by learning, by being willing to walk in your kids' shoes, you are better equipped to support and love them, even while they're struggling. And your efforts, they're going to pay off in a stronger, closer blended family.
Yeah.
I promise you they will.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, let's start talking about this. So the author of this book, Lauren Reitzma, is a really amazing communicator. She herself is a child of divorce, and she became a stepchild as well after both of her parents remarried. Now, last fall, I think October, November, somewhere in there, we had the opportunity to hear Lauren speak at a summit for blended families that was hosted by Family Life Blended.
Yeah. I even got to go to one of her workshops. It was amazing.
Yeah. Lauren is a leader at the Center for Relationship Education. And through her profession and communication, as well as her personal experience growing up in a blended family, she's been able to uncover in some really great ways these unspoken feelings that kids living in blended family dynamics might feel. You might be wondering if this book is for you. And today we're going to help you discover that. And we're going to also share a few things that we've learned from this book and just a few tips from the book that we think are really, really valuable.
Yeah. All right. Let's start off with a question for the step parents. Have you ever wondered why your stepkids seem insensitive and self-absorbed?
Yes.
And here's the second part to that question. Do you wonder why your sincere attempts to accept, connect with, and acknowledge your stepkids go unreciprocated?
Yes.
Gosh. Well, if you answered yes, like Mike did to any of these questions, then this book is definitely for you. Lauren offers readers insight into why this is common behavior for kids in blended families. Throughout the book, she shares her personal struggles as a kid trying to manage all the complex relationships with the adults in her life. And here's what she says. This is a direct quote. I recall conversations I had with both parents about my attitude, my expressions, the things I said or failed to say, and how these attitudes and actions were negatively received by my stepmom and stepdad. I was expected to be selfless, gracious, kind, and sensitive to the feelings of adults during my own selfish developmental growth.
Yeah, that's powerful, right?
Yeah, that quote hit me.
It's hard because I do want to raise my kids to be selfless, gracious, kind, and sensitive. But
sure, we all do.
Yeah, but we don't realize how challenging that can be for kids when they're navigating a relationship with a step parent.
Yeah.
So in one chapter called Lingering Effects, Lauren talks about how children of divorce in a blended family can experience some really heavy pressure to be sensitive toward and even responsible for the emotional well-being of their step-parent, and that this can be a problem. Now, I know it's really easy for us to kind of check out right now and don't right now, because we're thinking, well, I'm not making my kid responsible for their step-parent's feelings. Or as a step-parent, I'm not making my stepchild responsible for my own emotional well-being. But what happens in many of these dynamics is really not about the heart or the intention of the person. It's about the dynamics of what's going on. And these things sometimes happen very unintentionally.
And how it's perceived by the child. That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So hang in there with us for just a little while. See, sometimes there's this perception that the stepchildren are trying to intentionally hurt a stepparent's feelings. And that happens when they don't greet a stepparent with a smile and a hug, or when they don't say thanks for a great meal being prepared by a stepparent, or maybe when they don't say happy birthday on a stepparent's special day. All those things can feel really hurtful. I remember all too well feeling ignored by my stepdaughter Annika plenty of times. Sure. And that's hurtful. It's hard. Now, Lauren recalls in her book that when she missed the opportunity to affirm either of her stepparents, it was not her intention to hurt their feelings. As a kid, this was never even in her thought process. The reality was that she just felt overwhelmed. And what she really wanted was the freedom to know that just because she forgot to acknowledge a stepparent, it wasn't going to be assumed that she was intentionally trying to hurt anyone. Her forgetfulness was not indicative of her heart toward her stepparents. And when it was assumed that she was just being uncaring, that added even more pressure to her. See how easy it is to just inadvertently get stuck in this little trap. We talked a lot about how kids respond to pressure in episode 39. So if you're wondering about pressure and kids experiencing that, go back to episode 39 and check that out.
Yeah. Lauren also describes a dynamic that she calls step parentification. Did I say that right?
Say that again, yeah.
Step parentification, which was a new term for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but as we read it, we realized that this is a very common pitfall for many step-parents, and bio-parents play a role in this too.
Yeah, totally. It was a new term, but not a new dynamic.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, that's what that means.
Yeah, but she really digs into it. We all want our kids to be thoughtful and caring, but they simply don't possess the same emotional maturity that adults do. And according to a study by the University College London, teenagers hardly use the area of the brain that considers other people's emotions and thoughts when they're making a decision.
Why are we surprised by that? We had to have a study to tell us that.
But we want them to respond the way we would respond, yet they don't have the maturity. So as a step-parent, you might feel really slighted when your stepchild fails to acknowledge you on a special occasion, like Mother's Day or your birthday. And, as the bio parent, you're probably disappointed by this behavior, and you might feel this need to reprimand or correct your child for hurting the step-parent's feelings.
Yep.
This happens all the time. But when we expect our kids to function the same way we do, even while they're still developing and maturing, what we're inadvertently doing is making them responsible for our emotions. And ultimately, that's going to add to their burden, and it can push them even farther away. It's really tough. So
we're creating the opposite result of what we're really after.
What we want, yeah. So in a nutshell, that's what step parentification is. And it can happen in little innocent ways, or it can be even taken to some extremes.
Yeah.
And my daughter definitely experienced this dynamic in her other home with her stepmom. When her stepmom was having marital problems over in that other home
with Annika's
dad, she kind of treated Annika as her confidant. She would share all kinds of inappropriate information, adult information. And Annika was like 11 years old at the time. She was not in a place of being able to listen to this and process this with her stepmom and be an empathetic person. And it was just really tough on her. And I remember remember during that season, Annika did not get a lot of sleep. She had big dark circles under her eyes. She was struggling in school. She couldn't focus because her stepmom was just dumping this burden on her, all these things. And that's extreme.
That's an extreme case.
But it can go there.
Ultimately, what it was doing is it was making Annika responsible for her stepmom's emotions.
Right.
It was placing that burden on her.
Her stepmom was relying on her for emotional support.
And in most cases, step-parents don't want to do that. But it comes out in these really weird little inadvertent ways along the way. And so we have to guard against that. We have to be careful about that.
I'm sure Annika's stepmom had no idea that she was dumping this burden on her.
Yeah. And you know, what's interesting is, as Lauren shares, she did not experience that extreme type of case like Kim just described with Annika. But what she did is she experienced this pressure early on, and it even lingered into her adult life. She tells a story in the book about, you know, when she just neglected to send her stepmom a birthday card in her adult life, and her dad questioned her about it, and just that feeling, and how innocent and seemingly normal that is, but yet the pressure builds and the responsibility builds in the heart of a child, even an adult child. And so she just kind of continually felt that she was the cause of a step-parent's pain every time she failed to meet that expectation, which was an expectation that left her feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and guilty. Now, if she's feeling that as an adult, imagine what our kids might be experiencing, right? Now, this certainly is not, don't mishear us. It's not an excuse to allow kids to dishonor or disrespect their step-parents.
No.
Often we say to couples that, you know, you can't expect kids to love their step-parents, but you can expect them to be respectful.
Yeah, to treat them that they would treat a teacher or
exactly.
a soccer coach.
Exactly. But we also have to recognize that often kids are preoccupied with the stress that comes with feeling those high expectations to accept and enjoy their step-parent. And that's a burden that most kids aren't equipped to carry.
No, it's a lot.
Yeah. Now, we're going to share 3 strategies that Lauren shares to help us manage our own emotions through all of this so that we can show up really well in our role as a step-parent. Because when we're showing up emotionally regulated, that's when we're at our best.
Right.
And we want everyone to be at their best. Now, before we dive into those strategies, we want to address an objection, especially that bio parents might be thinking right now. I can just hear the questions formulating. Maybe you're thinking, now, wait a minute, Mike and Kim. Are you really telling me that I shouldn't expect my child to say thank you to my wife for cooking a great meal? Or that I should just say nothing when my child completely ignores my husband on his birthday? So let's talk about this for just a second, right? Here's a thought that you might consider around these common courtesies like thank yous and that kind of thing. The first thing you might want to think about is consider, are you expecting them to offer gratitude for common household stuff or something about going maybe above and beyond? Kim was talking about this to me a little while ago, actually.
Yeah, we had a big discussion about this because this is confusing.
And I love the way that she put it. Like, am I going to expect my child, imagine your child comes home every day from school and you say, did you thank your teacher for teaching you today? Did you thank your teacher for teaching you today? Did you thank your teacher for, like, that would get really annoying, not just to the child, but, you know, if I was the other parent, I'd be getting annoyed too. Like, the teacher's there to teach, and that's a normal thing every day. I don't necessarily have an expectation that there's an explicit thank you made every single day at the end. And step parents, we have to accept that. There are roles that we take on, like cooking and cleaning and laundry and all of those thankless duties of every parent. And we're probably not going to get a thank you every single time we do those things.
Yeah.
But there's other times where people go above and beyond. We're so excited to let you know about something brand new we've created just for you.
We've realized that with so many episodes available here on the show, it might feel a bit overwhelming to find the topics that matter most to you. That's why we've created a simple tool for you to receive a personalized playlist focused on your current struggle or your biggest challenge.
That's right. It's called the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz. You'll answer just a few questions, and based on your responses, we'll email you a curated custom playlist of episodes that are specific to you.
This simple quiz will direct you to the most impactful episodes that pertain to you personally and keep you on track in your journey of discovery, learning, and growth. So, scroll all the way to the bottom of the show notes for this episode and click the link to take the Blended Family Breakthrough Quiz today.
Okay, let's get back to the discussion.
Yeah, if we consider what we talked about, those 5 reasons why kids resist a step-parent, if you've got a child in your home that's experiencing any of those, they're still grieving their first family. They don't even want the step-parent in the home cooking them dinner. They want their bio parents there cooking them dinner, and then you're putting them in a position to have to thank a step-parent when they are struggling with even accepting that there's a step-parent in their lives. That's just a really difficult position to put a child in. And it can add to their confusion and their angst.
Exactly.
So you want to be sensitive around those things.
Right. So maybe you're not going to be expecting them to give a thank you after every meal that's cooked. But when there's a special event, like a birthday party for the child, or a graduation party, we're in that season right now, or things like that, and the step-parent goes above and beyond.
Really steps up.
That might be the point where you say, hey, how might you say thanks for that? And you
They worked
ask
really
them,
hard to make this special for you.
Yeah, exactly. And so you've got to really tell the difference between those common things that are just happening on a daily basis and when someone goes above and beyond. And that might be a way for you to indicate how you're going to continue to teach your child things like courtesy.
Yeah. And, the bio parent can always be the good example. You can always thank your partner for a great dinner and
be what you want them to be.
Yes, exactly. Be that example to them. Now, when there's special occasions, we want to kind of touch on that as well. When Mother's Day is coming up or step-parent's birthday is coming up, and that's on the horizon, a bio parent can be really proactive in how they go about this. And we're not going to go into all that today. We don't have time. But if you want to learn more about how you can be proactive and help your child there, go back to episode 34, which was all about Mother's Day, but you can apply those same concepts to any special occasion coming up. And it's a way to invite your child into it without adding pressure.
Yeah, exactly. And being proactive just helps you make sure that they're going to respond in a way that you're hoping is going to be kind and courteous and honoring, but you're getting ahead of the game. You're not waiting until after just to see what they do.
Yeah. And you're also going in with some expectation of how the child is going to respond, which is helpful for you and your partner. Yeah.
So hopefully we've cleared up a couple of objections there, and we want to keep moving. So let's just get into Lauren's 3 strategies to help step parents navigate this hurt that can come from all of this stuff and still really show up well.
Yeah, because we don't want to just leave you hanging with this is hard for the kids.
Right.
It is hard for the kids.
It's hard for adults too.
Yeah, we want to help you manage those hurts because this is painful.
All right. First, Lauren suggests that you find your emotional safety in truth, in your spouse, and in your adult friendships. I really love that she starts here because, when we're hurting, as humans, we all have this funny tendency to get tunnel vision. And here's what I mean. We get tunnel vision for this one moment in time or this one relationship. And we tend to think that defines everything about this season that we're in. And that can be really upsetting.
Sure.
Because we high center on the pain or the hurt that we're experiencing rather than looking at the broad spectrum of the reality of multiple relationships and the reality of a broader perspective of time. Right. We actually coach couples around a very specific tool that they can use to broaden their perspective so that they can stay focused on what the truth is and remain emotionally regulated. And that truth is bound in my heart for my stepchild, right? As much as I'm told sometimes that, oh, you're the mean, nasty step-parent, the truth is I know what my heart is all about. The truth is that even in the moment that my stepchild is treating me poorly, underneath that, there is still a relationship growing. And in most cases, that's true. The truth is my wife loves me and she trusts me with her daughter, even though I do it imperfectly. The truth is I've got some great friendships and some mentors and some people who are on my side. And you see, when I start to focus on all those truthful things, then the interaction with this one child in this one moment doesn't have to take me out or take me down. And when I can stay focused on that truth and I can keep my emotions regulated, now in that difficult interaction, that difficult moment, I'm actually showing up the way I want to show up, not responding out of my hurt or out of my anger. And I'll tell you, I have done this really imperfectly over the years, because way too many times with Annika, when I felt hurt by her, I did show up out of hurt and I did show up out of anger. Luckily, there were some other times where I showed up a bit more emotionally regulated and I was able to create connection even in the difficult moment.
Yeah.
This is really key for step parents, finding that emotional safety, not in that difficult moment, not in just this relationship with a stepchild, but in the truth about your heart, your relationships, in the safety and security of your relationship with your spouse, and in your adult friendships. And I would add trusted adult friendships who really have their best in mind, not the ones who are going, yeah, you should just tell that step kid what's for and all that. That's not the friendship you're focused there. But there are times where you might just need a break and go to coffee, hang out with a friend and all that. I mentioned this very specific tool that we coach. If you want to learn more about that, go ahead and hit our website and set up a free coaching session with us. There's a button right at the top of our website. Just click it and you can get right into scheduling a session with us. And we'd love to talk to you about what that looks like.
Yeah, because you don't want to get hijacked by the moment or the rug pulled out from under you because you're feeling impatient and frustrated and hurt. You want to maintain your composure in those moments, even when they're hurtful.
Now, here's the thing. Step parents, I don't know if you ever felt like this. I know I have. There's been lots of times where I feel like I'm the adult. I'm the one who's got to make it work. I just got to suck it up and I got to move on and I got to not be so hurt by these things.
Yeah.
And this whole idea of leaning into your spouse and into trusted friendships, this is an area where you don't have to maintain that false wall of, I'm not hurt, right?
Exactly.
Kim, you noticed something in Lauren's book that addresses that, right?
Yeah, it really stood out to me. She says, do your best to be open and honest about what you might need to diffuse the pain points. You've got pain points, but you've got to talk about them.
Yeah, and she's talking directly to step parents here.
Yeah. She says, many step parents I've talked with say communicating more of their needs often engenders guilt. I'm the adult. This is much more difficult for the children, so I will be the one to sacrifice and ensure I don't further rock the boat. Kind of what Mike was just talking about.
Exactly.
She goes on to say, these sentiments are thoughtful and kind, but without the emotional safety to honestly identify and process your own disappointments, you put yourself and your marriage at greater risk for future strife.
Yeah.
Unspoken disappointments root resentment and bitterness, sentiments that can devastate relationships if not resolved. Yeah. So important.
It's so powerful. Earlier, I can't remember if it was you or me, honey, that mentioned with the kids, if it's not talked out, it gets acted out.
Yeah,
it's true for adults too, right? So don't feel like you're being noble by keeping it all inside, and don't play the martyr.
No.
There were times, I'll admit, I played the martyr. Oh, poor me. Okay, I'll take the brunt. Don't let yourself go there, because I know every time I took the martyr route, I came back regretting it. So don't let yourself go there either. All right, so that's Lauren's first strategy to really helping us stay rooted as a step parent is to find that emotional safety in your truth, in your spouse, and in your adult friendships. What's the next one, honey?
Well, next, you need to recognize the number of people who expect attention and affirmation from the children.
Oh, you mean there's a multiplication factor?
Oh, there is. Do the math. Lauren does the math for her in the book. Mm-hmm. We love this quote by Doctors John and Emily Vischer. They say that step families don't have a family tree. They have a family forest.
That's right. It's big.
And it's so true. And here's what Lauren has to say about this. She says, when parents remarry after divorce, they no longer play an emotionally supportive role for their prior spouse.
Okay, that makes sense. So you don't have to worry about the emotional support of your ex.
No, I'm not sending birthday cards to my ex-spouse.
We should do that.
No. Children, on the other hand, acquire new emotional responsibilities for an extended group of people. They are working to juggle the expectations of an expansive number of family members.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. They're not in the same position we are. So we have this, of course, in our family that I need to think about for my daughter Annika, because while I was married to her dad, Annika had 2 sets of grandparents, 7 aunts and uncles, and several cousins between our 2 families.
That was it.
It was normal. Mm-hmm. When my ex remarried, my daughter gained a new stepmom, a step-grandma, and a step-aunt. Shortly after that, I married Mike, and Annika gained a stepdad, step-grandparents, step-great-grandparents, 4 step-aunts and uncles, and a step-great-aunt, and a bunch of step cousins.
Yeah. So there's this multiplication factor that comes with blended families. And the funny part is I personally grew up in a pretty complex blended family. So now Annika has to navigate all of those relationships with my expanded blended
dynamic. Yeah, dynamic. She inherited all of that.
Yeah. It's true. It's not just addition. It's truly multiplication. Yeah.
It's crazy. So we want to really be aware and take into consideration this expansive number of people that our kids are now trying to figure out how they're supposed to meet all the needs and all the expectations and what is expected. And it can be really, really overwhelming. If you read Lauren's book, she talks about this feeling, this emotional feeling of stress and overwhelm and frustration and guilt. Mm-hmm. And it just really weighed heavy on her.
Yeah.
So we want to think about that.
Yeah, if you want to see the details of that, sit down and make a list. Mm-hmm. Actually write it out. How many relationships did they have pre-divorce? Mm-hmm. And how many do they have post-remarriage?
Yeah.
It's astounding sometimes how expansive that can be.
Yeah, and it's surprising how we kind of miss that. We don't really think about it.
Yeah.
So we need to go there.
So what's the point? We just need to be really empathetic, and we need to understand that's a lot for them to juggle. So what are we really expecting from them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How can we take down the pressure?
Yeah, that's great. Now, the third strategy that Lauren encourages is for step parents to trust positive deposits.
Yes, we love this one.
And this is great. I think sometimes that step parents can be really good at celebrating positive deposits from step kids, but I don't know that we're that great at always trusting them. Because one thing that I know you read in part of the book there is that the sheer quantity of negative responses compared to positive responses can be really off balance. And we should expect there to be more negative interactions than positive interactions.
Sure.
But you know what? That's just on a quantitative basis. I would love to try to stay focused more on a qualitative basis, because those little glimmers of moments when a kid shows up with a genuine loving heart, that's a picture. It's just a little vision into what's actually churning in their heart that can grow over time. And when we can have a qualitative view of that rather than quantitative, that helps us begin to trust those positive deposits.
Yeah.
And that helps us as step parents to show up well and to love them well. I love another quote that Lauren says in there is that kids cannot reject forever those who love them well. Yeah. So if I can love Annika, my stepdaughter, well, there's a point where she just can't relent from that anymore. She's not going to be able to keep rejecting it. And when a step-parent shows up well and is consistently making genuine effort to create those strong bonds, and we talked about that back in episode 39, at some point, the stepkids are going to let their walls down, even if it's just for a moment, and they're going to offer that positive deposit. Yeah. And so we've got to learn to trust those positive deposits. And sometimes they're really small. Sometimes they're big, you know, maybe they happily kick a soccer ball around the yard with you for 10 minutes, right? Sometimes we can think big deal, but you know what? That is a big deal.
That's a positive deposit.
Maybe they lean in for a quick hug. I'm a hugger. And so I'll tell you the times when Annika was willing to just lean into me and show some physical affection was huge. So great for me. I still remember very shortly after we got married, Kim dropping me off to work on a rental home that we owned. And I kissed Kim goodbye. And from the back seat, the sweet little 6-year-old voice is like, "Where's my kiss?" Like it was the first time she asked for some physical affection from me. 20 years later, I still remember, I can still picture her sitting in that little booster seat in the back of your little blue Nissan.
You were so excited.
I was over the moon about that. It seems like a tiny thing, but it's not, right? Maybe they'll send you a thoughtful text message out of the blue or do something that offers some kind of care, whether it's small, like pouring you a cup of coffee, or big, like celebrating a special day with you. Either way, we've got to learn to trust that those are genuine. They're all really genuine deposits. They're positive. Yeah. I went and dug some stuff out of the
archives.
The archives, yeah. And, you know, I tend to save stuff, but I save it if it meant something. And I found this funny little Father's Day card where
so cute.
It was pre-done. I remember picking Annika up from her Sunday school class, and she comes out, and it's Father's Day weekend, and that can be really challenging for Mother's Day, Father's Day. Those can be hard weekends. You don't know what's going to come out. And of course, they were making little cards for Daddy, right? Well, she made hers pre-printed, and she wrote in the word stepdaddy ahead of time, which was great. Okay, she recognized that. And then she writes in there, "I love you so," lots of O's, and more. I think she forgot the word much, right? She's just little. And she said, "You're the best," circled best, stepdad ever, with a big exclamation point. I mean, her handwriting in this, clearly she's maybe 6 or 7. Yeah. It was so long ago. She's 24 now, almost 25. And I still have this because I had to learn how to hold on to these things and trust that she actually meant some of these things, because I'm telling you what, we had so many interactions where I didn't believe that she meant it.
That she cared at all.
And so this is a really powerful thing. If you're a step parent and you've had some of these little positive interactions, hold on to if there's a tangible, like a card or a note or something you can save, put it up in an area where you can see it on a regular basis so that it reminds you that there is a glimmer of hope. There's a glimmer of something building in their heart, and you can land on that.
Yeah. And that's kind of a big thing, getting a card like that. One day she just out of the blue, we were outside in nature, and she gave you a little rock.
Oh yeah.
And you held on to that rock.
I used to carry that rock for a long time.
In your pocket for years.
It was just in with my change and
just
stuff.
To remind you that she connected with you on that day by picking up a rock and offering it.
Here's the big point on this one is you have to be intentional about it. You have to figure out how you're going to capture the moment. When she gave me the rock, I made a conscious choice to say, you know what, I'm going to keep that in my change pocket, and I'm going to carry it around regularly so that when my finger touches it, I remember, oh yeah, that's right. She thought about me. And that helps you trust the truth about what's going on in their heart.
Yeah. But you don't want those negative interactions to negate the positive ones.
That's right.
The positive ones are there. They're real. Hold on to them and celebrate them. Build on that. Don't build on the negative.
All right. So if we're going to follow Lauren's advice here, we're going to start to find our emotional safety and truth in our spouse, in our adult friendships. We're going to recognize this amazing number of people that are expecting attention and affirmation from our kids to get some empathy for the pressure that they might feel. And we're going to learn to trust these positive deposits. Yeah.
They are meaningful.
What else does Lauren teach us?
Well, there's just so much more packed into this little book. It's amazing. But clearly, we don't have time to share it all on this episode as much as we would like to. Lauren, she just does a great job sharing her story and relating it to so much research out there about divorced and blended family life. She shares about the power struggles, the identity crisis that kids and families can experience.
Yeah, I love that chapter.
Yeah, me too. The roadblocks to receiving love in a blended family. That's powerful to understand. The bad pride that can get in the way and the good pride that you can build on. There's a difference there.
There is.
And the future legacy that you can build and just so much more. You know, even after 20 years of our marriage and blending and Annika now being adult, we still learned a lot here from Lauren from this great little resource that chapter on identity crisis. You know, for years, our daughter, Annika, has struggled to figure out where she fits in.
Yeah.
And Lauren talks about how growing up after divorce, how she spent a lot of time with friends because she didn't fit into either family dynamic or feel like she could be herself, like she could take her guard down and be herself. So she spent a lot of time with friends. And Annika did that for years. She would just glom onto other families. And it was so frustrating for me because I would try so hard to tell her, you belong here. You're part of this family. You do fit. And for years, I felt guilty. Like, what could I have done better? Or where did I go wrong? Or why didn't she feel like she fit? And reading this book really helped me to put some context around that.
Yeah. Started realizing it wasn't you. It wasn't me. It was the
dynamics. Yeah. And it was natural for her to spend time with other families because she felt less pressure there.
Totally. Yeah. Such a great resource. So many great things packed in there. You know, here's the deal. If you desire genuine connection with the kids, but you're not sure how to get there, or maybe you feel powerless whenever your stepkids are around, or you start to feel stressed when you know they're going to be around. Maybe you wonder why the kids seem to love the other parent and the step parent in that other home more than they seem to love you and your spouse. That's a tough thing.
Yeah, she talks about that.
Yeah, it's hard to admit you feel that way sometimes. Maybe you're someone who wonders why the kids seem irritable, disrespectful, and manipulative all the time. Or as a step parent, maybe you just need some real assurance and encouragement and some insider information about what might be going on with your stepkids down below the surface. If you can relate to any of that you've heard today and you want to learn more, then we challenge you to grab a copy of this book. And we're going to link to that in the show notes. And we just want to leave you with this quote from Lauren. She says, when a new marriage takes place, the original pieces of life before divorce quickly evaporate. A brand new stage is set, while the heart of the child is often longing for the original script. Now, chances are you want to understand the hearts of the children in your home, and this book is really going to be a great resource to help you do just that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So go get the book. And with that makes this episode a wrap.
Until next time.